The full moon guided me along the forest trail that night. But in the pitch-black thickets, I realized too late that I was not alone. The whispers began, surrounding me from the shadows. My flashlight revealed a foreboding oak etched with spirals. Spectral hands grabbed me, dragging me to a blood-stained altar as I screamed helplessly. This is the chilling fictional tale of my night hike into the forest, and the malevolent presence that dwells within. Hit subscribe and join me on this journey into darkness if you dare. But be warned, sometimes evil lurks in the most unexpected places. The full moon hovered high in the midnight sky, its bone-white glow casting shadows over the dense forest. Greg hiked along the narrow gravel trail, his boots crunching on the uneven ground. An owl hooted somewhere in the distance, but otherwise an unnatural silence permeated the woods. Greg shivered and zipped his jacket up higher. It was colder than he expected for a summer night. He shifted the weight of his backpack and continued onward, following the winding path deeper into the trees. Up ahead, the trail disappeared into a tightly crowded copse where the branches knit together, blocking out the moonlight. The shadows thickened like tendrils of pitch-black fog. Greg hesitated. A nervous tingling crept up his spine as the silence around him grew heavy, oppressive. He felt unseen eyes watching him from the thicket up ahead. Felt an ominous energy that set his primal instincts on edge. He shook off the paranoia. Don't freak yourself out, Greg thought. It's just a trail in the woods. Nothing to be scared of. Steeling himself, Greg stepped off the gravel path and into the tangle of trees before him. He clicked on his flashlight to combat the darkness that surrounded him like a suffocating shroud. Strange, the moon had lit the rest of the woods enough to see. But its beams could not penetrate the canopy here. As Greg walked, the hairs on the back of his neck prickled. The feeling of being watched returned, stronger than before. Refusing to give in to irrational fear, he quickened his pace. The trees grew closer together, gnarled branches grasping at his jacket like crooked fingers. His heart pounded as the air around him grew heavy with a sinister energy. Then he heard it. The faintest of whispers, a susurrus sound that raised goosebumps on his arms. At first, he thought it was just leaves rustling, though no wind stirred on this oppressive night. But the whispers grew louder, echoing strangely between the trees as if the woods themselves were murmuring. Greg froze, rooted in place. He shone his flashlight around, searching for the source of the voices. But he saw only the empty forest. The whispers intensified, surrounding him with a disquieting chorus of raspy words just beyond the edge of comprehension. Panic flared through Greg's veins. He broke into a run, crashing blindly through the underbrush, heedless of the branches that snatched at his clothes like desperate claws. The trail was gone, but he plunged recklessly into the depths of the woods, following some primal instinct to get as far away from the voices as he could. His flashlight beam bobbed wildly in the darkness, catching nightmarish glimpses of gnarled trees that appeared to twist unnaturally before his eyes. Roots and stones threatened to trip him with every step. Still the whispers swirled around him in a cacophony of madness. Without warning, Greg stumbled into a clearing. His flashlight revealed an ancient oak tree at its center. Relieved to be free of the crowded trees, Greg rushed toward it. But as his light played over the oak's massive trunk, his breath caught in horror. Carved deeply into the bark were symbols, jagged shapes, and spirals forming disturbing patterns he could not decipher. The grooves looked freshly cut, still oozing sap. But the carvings also seemed ancient, as if they had always been part of the tree itself. Greg's primal instincts screamed danger. The woods had gone deathly silent again. Even the whispers had ceased. The only sound was the harsh rasp of his own breathing. The silence weighed on him like a physical force. An unnatural stillness permeated the forest. This was no ordinary place, Greg realized with dawning dread. He could feel it in the depths of his bones. There were forces here that were old, watching, waiting. The whispers returned abruptly, shattering the silence. They invaded Greg's mind from all sides now. He pressed his hands over his ears, but could not block them out. The voices arose from within the woods themselves, within the bones of the hills and heartwoods of the trees. Shadows shifted around the clearing's perimeter. Greg spun with his flashlight, heart hammering. The beam revealed only fleeting glimpses of vague shapes that darted behind trees as soon as he spotted them. The shadows defied all attempts to bring them into the light. Cold horror congealed in Greg's gut. His flashlight flickered once, then went out, plunging him into absolute darkness. The whispers rose to a deafening roar. Greg opened his mouth to scream, but an icy hand clamped down hard, cutting off his air. Frantically, he tore at the unseen fingers, but more materialized from the darkness, grabbing his arms, his legs. They lifted him like he weighed nothing at all, carrying him swiftly into the forest depths as he struggled helplessly against their preternatural strength. He thrashed violently as the figures bore him deeper into the woods, unhindered by branches or brambles. Their ghostly hands passed through them like smoke, but their grip on Greg remained vice-like. Dread etched his heart as the ancient trees closed in around him once more. At last, the shadowy entities flung him down. Hard-packed dirt slammed into his back, knocking the breath from his lungs. Gasping, Greg forced his eyes open. His vision swam into focus on a crumbling stone altar soaked in dark stains that looked horribly like old blood. The whispers ceased again. Malignant anticipation thickened the air. Cruel faces with eyes like bottomless voids peered down at Greg from the ring of trees that hemmed in this evil clearing. He tried to scramble back, but grasping hands seized him and slammed him down onto the altar's surface. Greg screamed then, a raw primal cry that pierced the silence yet elicited no mercy from the forces that held him captive. They pressed his writhing body deeper into the blood-stained stone. Shadowy figures hovered over him, etched against the night sky. Greg's mind reeled with terror as he glimpsed the ritual blades clutched in their hands. Greg thrashed and pleaded to no avail as the knives rose in unison, poised to descend. The whispering voices returned for one final ritual chorus. At their hideous command, the blades pierced Greg's flesh and vital fluids flowed, an offering to whatever evil haunted these woods. Greg's screams echoed through the trees until finally, mercifully, they faded into silence. In the pitiless dark, the woods kept their secrets once again. The shadows returned to their slumber, leaving no trace behind. Waiting patiently for the next visitor to cross their ancient threshold unawares.